One of the fastest growing areas in the legal profession is that of bankruptcy. We're going to talk about that next right here on Due Process.
Major funding for Due Process is provided by Meade Lexus of Southfield and Meade Lexus of Lakeside, offering a large selection of new and pre-owned certified premium vehicles.
What if your car didn't come from a factory, but out in the world where you actually drive? You can find out at lexus.com/allnewrx.
And by WWJ News Radio 950, keeping you up to date with the latest news, traffic, weather, sports, and business information 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
I'm Henry Baskin, and this is Due Process. We're going to be talking today about bankruptcy. It's an area that you probably may not visit, but you know someone who is in bankruptcy, someone who's thinking about bankruptcy. And with the economy disaster that we have in the state of Michigan at the present time, more and more people are turning to the bankruptcy lawyers. And with us today are two of the best. We have Stuart Gold. Stuart Gold, welcome. I was going to give the name of your firm, but you may as well tell me.
I'll be glad to help you out with that. That's Gold, Lange, Majoros. We're in Southfield.
Okay, Stuart, and it's all, your practice is strictly bankruptcy.
That's all we do.
Helping people work things out.
Right.
Michael Lieberman, welcome to Due Process.
Thank you,
You haven't
Henry.
been on before, but I want to thank you for coming down.
Thank you for inviting me.
What is the firm that you're with?
My firm is Lieberman, Gies, and Cohen, and we're located in Farmington Hills.
Okay, all of your work, as far as bankruptcy is concerned, is in the federal court. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's a federal law that's applied equally across the 50 states.
Let me ask you, historically, did bankruptcy start, the ability to go into bankruptcy, did it start in the Depression of the 20s?
Well, I think it actually started before that.
Really?
It probably became more commonplace with the Depression and during economic downturns.
Just basically, what is the purpose of bankruptcy?
The standard explanation for a bankruptcy when you're dealing with individuals is to give an honest but unfortunate debtor a fresh start. Mm-hmm. And that's what the purpose of the bankruptcy code, at least ideally that's what it is for. People shouldn't be slaves to their indebtedness for their entire lives, and the bankruptcy code, which has evolved over the years, has given individuals the ability to put their debts behind them and try to get back on their feet again.
So once you do this, what is the rate of recidivism? Stuart, is people go back into trouble again?
Well, they do from time to time. The current bankruptcy code only allows a fresh start once every 8 years.
Every 8 years?
Yeah, it used to be 6, and then in 2005, with the recent amendments, the Congress changed it and lengthened it to 8 years.
Well, you must have repeaters that come in every 8 years and say, hi, I'm here again.
Well, I don't think we send out welcome cards or any reminders, but we do see it from time to time. And unfortunately, it's just as sad as the first time. I mean, people do get themselves in trouble, and we do our best to help them out.
Just a basic thing. You know this thing about credit scores? If
Yes.
you go online and pay $50, you can find out your credit score. How important are credit scores? And how does bankruptcy affect a credit score?
Well, the bankruptcy obviously has a negative effect on the credit scores, and I would say that with the bulk of my individual clients, that's a primary concern. Most of them come in and they want to tell me about their credit score. They have perfect credit, and what they don't really realize or understand is they have perfect credit because they've been juggling the balls for so long. They're paying the minimums on their credit cards, etc., and so their credit score isn't impaired, but their ability to function.
Well, it's not impaired because no one knows that they're behind.
Correct.
But how important is a credit score, Stuart? Is it important to people to have I don't even know what the numbers are.
Yeah,
I mean, why isn't it sort of putting the cart before the horse?
In this day and age, it's very important. I mean, if you want to get a car, you want to get a home mortgage, or you want a credit card,
but
all of that's dependent on a
But
on
it
a credit
sounds
score.
so stupid. I mean, the government gives billions of dollars to banks to loan to people so they can buy cars, buy homes, and do other things with it that are important. Maybe pay a medical bill. So now you've got a bad credit score and you can't get the money.
Well, you're not necessarily, you can't get the money. You may get the money, but you may pay a higher interest rate to get that money. So instead of having A1 credit and paying a lower rate, if you filed for bankruptcy, you still might get the loan, but you may pay twice as much as the person who didn't file for bankruptcy.
I don't know why it is that I keep fighting credit score numbers, because for some reason I think it's fictional. I just don't think it's real. I don't know who applies these scores, who they are, what they are. I mean, I know for years, and I'll take a position here, that the credit card companies have been ripping off the consumers for years and years and years. Because if you turn over the back of your credit card invitation, there's all this stuff called fine print. And fine print means they don't want you to read it. And it's got some draconian things in it, such as 29% interest, and if you don't do this by a certain date. There are even credit card companies, I think you find in your practice, who send out statements late, so you only have a couple days to pay it on time, or else you're in the penalty period. Now, I don't know if you get involved in that when you wipe out these debts, but what does it take, Michael, what does it take for an average person who said, look, I have medical bills, I don't have a credit card, my job, I didn't lose my job, but I've been reduced in pay, and I just can't make my bills, I can't pay them, I'm getting garnished at work. What do you do with these people?
Well, what I usually do is have an initial consultation with them, and I usually speak to them on the phone beforehand to get an idea of what their problem is, and then I usually email them some information to put together for me so that I can then have a constructive interview with them when we first meet. Assuming that they are a candidate for a bankruptcy, assuming a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, the law requires that they do pre-bankruptcy counseling in order to be able to file the bankruptcy case. There's a second counseling session.
What is the pre-bankruptcy counseling for? What's the purpose of it?
Well, when the law changed in October of '05, it's mandatory for individuals who file bankruptcy. I believe it is to educate, the purpose is to educate
Is it like a drug rehab center? I mean, like, yeah, okay, we're going to tell you how to stay away from financial trouble.
I think they give you some ideas, some pointers as far as budgeting and things like that.
Is that part of the legislation?
The education is required, or the counseling is required. Yes, you cannot file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy petition, or I believe a 13 petition, for that matter, either, unless you do the counseling first.
13 is 7 is a complete bankruptcy.
Correct.
Okay, and 13 is what?
It's a personal reorganization.
Trying to work things out.
Yes.
But that only works if you have a job, right?
Yes.
I mean, if you lost your job.
Very tough.
And if you lost your job and you have to go to counseling before you can file for bankruptcy, how dumb is that? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I lost my job, I can't pay my bills. So what is this counselor going to tell me? And we're going to hear from a counselor later on. But what is the counselor going to tell me about get a job? I guess that's the only answer.
Well, they're going to talk about, I assume, reducing expenses as well,
right,
to live within the means that you have. Sometimes you have unemployment compensation coming in, obviously,
right,
to weather the storm, and they'll give you some ideas on how to proceed based upon your new set of circumstances.
Well, do you, as bankruptcy lawyers, do you give people advice on how to, I mean, you must not take every case that comes in. You must not recommend bankruptcy. Some of the people can work it out, right?
Right, and I try to, when I'm advising a client, give them their options. Bankruptcy is not always a good fit for the client, and if there's a way to avoid a bankruptcy, we try to do that. Sometimes it involves negotiation with creditors and trying to work out settlement plans as opposed to filing a bankruptcy. Or some clients just can't file a bankruptcy because of their circumstances. They may have assets that they would lose in a bankruptcy, so as opposed to doing that, we can try to negotiate an out-of-court workout for them.
So you do that kind of work, too?
Yes.
Yeah, basically, it's your last option. I mean,
Okay.
you're going to explore everything that's available and then consider bankruptcy last.
We have a guest who couldn't be here in person, but we have her by remote camera, Stephanie Osterland, who is with a company called Greenpath Incorporated. Stephanie, hi.
Hi, good morning, Henry.
How you doing? Thanks for joining us. You heard the bankruptcy lawyers talk about counseling before people could file for bankruptcy. Is that what you do at Greenpath?
Yes, we offer the pre-filing briefing, which is required in order for them to file a bankruptcy.
Okay, what do you do with someone who comes to you and says, look, I'm a mother with 3 children. I've lost my job. My ex-husband is not paying child support. What can I do? I mean, what do you tell these people? I mean, it's nothing that they did. They didn't cause their company to fail, and they didn't cause their ex-husbands not to pay child support. So what can you tell them?
Well, absolutely. It's a tough situation for this person, definitely. But what we try to do with the counseling session is first get a good handle on what their situation is, what's leading to all of these problems, what kind of debt they have, what kind of looming financial crisis that they're in. We also take a look at the numbers and see if there are any options out there for them, including the option of bankruptcy, and really try to inform the consumer on the advantages or disadvantages of any option that might be out there for this person. A lot of times bankruptcy ends up being their choice, so we really do just try to make sure that the client is making an informed decision and something that they're comfortable with, and then we focus a lot on the future. What can we do to help this client get on a better financial footing, provide them with some resources, possibly connect them with some other agencies or someone who can help them with finding a job and things of that nature. So we really try to help make sure that this person's set up for financial success going forward.
So what you do is a requirement of the federal law that says you've got to talk to these people about how to be better consumers, how to be smarter about how they spend their money, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, I've had people come to me with 14 or 15 credit cards. I mean, using these cards and the dates and just, it's a Ponzi scheme, but they're doing it. And these people get great gratification out of worshiping at the temple at, say, Somerset Mall. And they get instant gratification by buying things. And as soon as they buy them, then they have buyer's remorse. But this is part of a psychological problem, and I don't know if you deal in that area.
Well, our counselors are more so trained to assess the financial problem, but you're right. We do see clients who have some possibly impulse control issues that lead them to, spending it uncontrollably in certain circumstances. Our counselors can recognize that, and we can, suggest that they speak to someone to address the psychological aspect of it, but we really try to help focus on what can they do to put some barriers in place to avoid this kind of behavior, such as signing up for the opt-out list so that they're not getting further credit card solicitations, ways to behaviorally stop the problem.
Okay, do you deal with credit scores at all?
Not so much in the bankruptcy counseling. Sometimes clients do have questions about whether they can get loans again and things like that in the future, which Stuart had kind of mentioned previously as well.
Do you believe those numbers are accurate?
It's up to each individual lender, I guess, on how they're going to use it. So
I mean, I'm not starting a campaign, but I think that they're fictitious. I think those numbers are made up by somebody somewhere sitting in Minneapolis and saying, okay, your credit score is 35 or something like that. I mean, I don't quite understand how they arrive at it, but I think there's a lot of subjective input that goes into these credit score things. But in any event, are you available with or without bankruptcy? I mean, your referrals come from the bankruptcy lawyers, but are you available without the bankruptcy lawyers intervening?
Absolutely.
Okay, so do you have a website that we can see? We have a website called dueprocess.tv. We can link up to your website if people want more information.
Sure, absolutely.
Could you tell us what it is?
Yep, it's www.greenpath.com.
Okay, well, greenpath.com would be the one.
Yep, and they can get information about all the services that we offer in our bankruptcy counseling as well on that website.
Where are you located?
We're located right here in Farmington Hills. That's where our headquarters are. We have a lot of actual physical offices throughout the state of Michigan.
So you've been pretty busy these days?
Yes, sadly with the economy in Michigan, we're very busy trying to help out a lot of people.
Okay, well, thanks for taking time out from a busy day, and see if you can help those people.
Sure, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks a lot, I appreciate that.
No problem, have a great day.
Guys, this is like the requirement. There must be several kinds of companies like GreenPath, right?
Yes, there are.
We're going to talk about that. I want to talk more about hardcore bankruptcy when we come back right after this break. Stay with us.
Legal referrals and more information on this and other related topics are available on our website at www.dueprocess.tv. There you'll find information on today's program, helpful hints to legal issues, support materials, and lawyer referrals. You can also stream previous episodes of Due Process.
We're back in Due Process talking about bankruptcy. It seems to be the buzzword. I mean, we go from General Motors way at the top down to some guy who was working at a auto supply company, a tier 1 supplier, and they've gone out of business. He has unemployment for a period of time, and they come to see you, and they bring you all their information. What do you do with that?
Well, the first thing we do is determine whether or not they're being sued, whether there's judgments against them,
Right.
whether they're being pursued by creditors actively, or is it just, credit card statements that they are dealing with. So we try and get a handle on their personal situation at this time.
If you have no money coming in, you don't have a job, and there's a judgment against you, what can the creditors do?
Very, very little.
I mean, but are they willing to talk to you? I mean, in other words, if I'm paying $1,000 a month on a mortgage and I can't do that, are they willing to talk to you about reducing that amount?
You're talking about the mortgage lenders or the
The
general
mortgage
creditors?
lenders and the credit card people, and the people who have your secured investment vehicles, the car people.
The interesting thing with the mortgage companies and the credit card lenders is if the customer is current on their payments, then the lenders won't talk to them.
No, okay.
It's almost a situation where you have to make the conscious decision to fall behind, and sometimes it's forced anyways, but you have to be behind before they'll consider any type of modification or settlement.
Right, so if you're borrowing money from your family to make your payments,
Sure.
you go to your mother and say, I'm short, I can't make my car payment. The more you do that, the worse it gets.
Well, the more difficult it is to get any type of relief. Because
Right,
if you're
because
current, they just won't talk to you.
At the end of the day, your relative's going to run out of money or stop loaning you money, and you're not going to have a car.
Right.
Exactly. And as a practical matter, what I try to advise my clients is if the family's in a position to help you, it's better to have them help you prospectively than help you deal with the creditor problems. If the problem is insurmountable,
Right.
and it's not going to be solved by getting some small assistance from the family, it's almost better to make the decision, okay, this isn't working, let's go forward, if necessary, file the bankruptcy, and then if the family is going to help after the fact, then they're getting direct assistance as opposed to being helped with the peripheral issues.
It's always a timing issue, is when do we get to see the client?
Right.
Sometimes we get to see the client early on and we can address those issues. Sometimes we see the client after all the judgments are entered,
Yeah.
so it's very little we can do.
Well, in the medical field, I mean, people are reluctant to go see their doctor. They don't have insurance.
Right.
Right.
They have to make choices whether to buy food or buy insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not sure what the Obama plan is going to end up doing. I assume, in all honesty, I really believe that everyone is going to have access to some type of insurance. But they come in and have all these bills. I owe $6,000 to a doctor. What do you do, Stuart? Do you make a phone call?
If that's the only bill that they are coming in to see me for, absolutely. We'll make a call to the doctor or to the collection agency that has the obligation
And
to see
how
what
do
we
they
can
feel about it? What do you tell them? I mean, you guys have great reputations, and these people know you, and they know that you're not going to tell them something that's not true.
Right. Most of the collection attorneys in town know what we do and,
Right.
and what we're trying to accomplish. So for the most part, they will work with us. Every once in a while, they have a client that won't work with their own attorney, and therefore we do have to file the bankruptcy. But for the most part, if we're dealing with a single creditor and we have some reasonable settlement offer, they'll consider it.
I mean, well, the attorney, we can't blame the attorneys. I'll tell you why.
Never.
Because the clients they're in trouble too. There's one mortgage company whose stock has gone from $17 to 48 cents in the last year. Now they're about to be visited by the FDIC, I assume. So they're telling their attorney, they want all the money from client X. Client X doesn't have the money, so the attorney is sort of in the middle. But are you telling me that as bankruptcy lawyers, you do visit with people and try and help them without bankruptcy, that you try and help them reduce their obligations?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Or prolong it?
Absolutely.
So can you give me some success stories?
Sure. A good situation that I can I can give you is I've had a number of clients who a married couple. Husband dies suddenly as a result of I have one that had a heart attack. I had another one that had a catastrophic auto accident. In any event, the wife, who's pretty much a stay-at-home mom, doesn't have control of the finances, now has a serious problem because there's a lot of debt that she didn't know about in the first place. There's some insurance money, so if I file a bankruptcy for her, she would stand to lose the money that she's going to get from the insurance, life insurance.
Right, that's true.
And so in order to protect as much of the money as possible, what we've done is she's engaged me to contact the mostly credit card companies to try to negotiate settlements. And again, it's a situation where the payments are behind. I typically send a letter out to the creditor with a copy of the death certificate, an explanation of the situation, and make a proposal. And it takes a long time to get feedback from those creditors, but slowly but surely we're making progress, and we're settling the accounts, and the client's happy. She's avoiding a bankruptcy, and she's able to protect what little she has.
Well, that's a good thing. But, yeah. Stuart, are you able to talk to mortgage companies and get them to cram down these mortgages?
That's harder to do these days, quite honestly. Yeah, at least from a lawyer perspective. Generally, there are specialized attorneys now that do that, and specialized non-attorneys that will deal with the mortgage companies.
Yeah, well, I see those ads on TV every day, and I'm not sure.
Those are scary ads. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to comment on those on this show, but I would be a little reluctant to engage these people.
I agree, and that's why it's important to get a good referral, somebody that knows somebody who knows that they're doing the right thing. So we do make those referrals from time to time. But like Michael has just suggested, we do the same thing. We'll do the creditor workouts from time to time, and they are very successful. You just have to be patient. They do take a long time to
But how do these people pay you? It sounds like it's all pro bono work. They don't have any money when they come in.
Yeah, my wife asks me that all the time.
Right.
Yeah. Well, now, let me ask you about Carlita Kilpatrick. I mean, she has millions of dollars.
Apparently.
Now, when a bankruptcy occurs, if a bankruptcy occurred in a case like that, would they go to the spouse's assets, or they look only to the say the man's filing for bankruptcy? When did the wife's assets come into play?
You want to take that?
I mean,
well, we don't have to talk about Kilpatrick.
No, but Stuart's a trustee. He probably sees this issue a lot more frequently.
You're a
than
trustee
me.
in bankruptcy, Stuart, and that means that you're appointed by the court.
Basically, yes.
To take over the assets, right?
Right.
And you see these situations where the wife has money in her bank account.
Right. Well, we want to know how that money got in her bank account. Where did it come from? She may have had her own inheritance, and there's nothing wrong with that. She may have.
What if the money came from business people?
Well, again, if it was a gift to her or a loan to her, that really doesn't impact on her spouse. So we probably wouldn't be able to attach that for the benefit of his creditors. It's only when his assets somehow end up in her bank account that we call that into question.
Well, how about his blue sky and goodwill ends up in her bank account?
Well, that's
or
something.
Or his mother's blue sky and goodwill.
Well, we'll attempt to claw that back for the benefit of his creditors at that point.
So it's your job as trustee, wearing your other hat,
right,
to go out and try to find the money to pay the creditors.
Absolutely.
Now, you get creditors who have to get this letter from bankruptcy court and said, you've been listed as a debtor, excuse me, as a creditor, and there's a hearing. Do these people go down to the hearings, and what do they hear when they go down to the hearings?
The hearing is called a meeting of creditors, and the creditors are invited to attend the meeting of creditors, and oftentimes they don't show up at the meeting of creditors.
Because
usually
it's like useless, right?
Well, I think they make a decision whether or not it makes sense to go or not, and yeah, I think a lot of them think that it's a waste of their time. The problem is the way the system is set up, and I don't know that there's much that can be done about it, is those meetings of creditors don't last very long. They allow basically about 5 to 7 minutes per meeting, and so there isn't an opportunity to ask a lot of questions during that meeting of creditors, which is really what the purpose of that meeting is for.
Well, why have it? Is there any reason?
Well, it also gives the trustee an opportunity to ask questions of the debtors so that they can find out the nature of the case and what assets, if any, are available. Things of that nature.
Can a Michigan person file a bankruptcy in another state or another federal court, say in New York or Texas?
it's dependent on a couple of factors, but if you have assets in the other state, then that qualifies you to file in that
You have to have
particular
assets
state.
somewhere else?
Assets, or you have to be domiciled. You have to live there for a certain length of time.
Okay.
So really, it's only 91 days.
Oh,
So to establish residency, and then you can file in the other state.
well, we're getting assigned to wrap it up, and there's a lot more to talk about. But Stuart Gold, and Michael Lieberman, thank you so much for being here. I see that the prediction is that there's no turnaround until 2011. I suspect that you guys can be busy till 2020.
Well, we'll be busy for a while.
I mean, the
think,
way it
yes.
looks right now. So thanks, sir, for coming down. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
And
us.
we'll take your advice, because I think it was well worthwhile telling these people not to go to these credit counseling. I mean, that is just, they're outrageous. The ads say, we can get you down in nothing. We don't owe anything.
About the tax guys too. The tax
Oh, the tax guys, they say, well, we promise we won't have to pay income tax.
Major funding for Due Process is provided by Meade Lexus of Southfield and Meade Lexus of Lakeside, offering a large selection of new and pre-owned certified premium vehicles.
What if your car didn't come from a factory, but out in the world you actually drive? You can find out at lexus.com/allnewrx.
And by WWJ News Radio 950, keeping you up to date with the latest news, traffic, weather, sports, and business information 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.